What's happening, everyone? Welcome to the Wildcast podcast. I'm Justin Spears here with Michael Lev. We're going to be talking about the Arizona BYU football game and what took place this past Saturday night at Arizona Stadium. Plus, we'll also answer some of your Arizona football mailbag questions. I know we got a few left over from Lev's mailbag last week. I know I have a couple as well that we'll get to here in just a little bit. But if you're listening to this podcast, we appreciate you. If you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe on Apple and Spotify, and also make sure to follow all of our coverage of the Wildcats this season at Tucson.com and the Wildcaster app. And Lev, I think we should start with, really 19 seconds. I think that's really the big topic that everyone is discussing this past weekend. There were a number of things that happened in that Arizona BYU game. One hell of a game, by the way. Double overtime, or the first double overtime game at Arizona Stadium since that crazy game against Utah in 2015. Arizona, they've been in overtime games in recent years, but none at Arizona Stadium in about a decade. All their overtime games have been on the road. But man, what a wild game! It looked like, hey, the weather delay kind of helped out Arizona, got the Wildcats back in the game. They overcome a 14-point deficit, and then they take a commanding lead in that second half. And you felt like the Wildcats were going to be on their way to upsetting the BYU Cougars. And then certain things happen, Lev, and the Arizona Wildcats fall in double overtime. And I think really the one thing, like I said, that we should start at is 19 seconds, because after BYU put together a game-tying drive, they gave the ball back to Arizona with 19 seconds left on the clock, and Arizona had 2 timeouts. And Arizona decided, okay, we're going to take a knee and we're going to beat them in overtime. And the more I've sat on this, Lev, the more I'm like, I understand where Brent Brennan is coming from, but I would have done something different. I would have drawn up a play that gets you close to out of bounds. And if it doesn't work, okay, you can call a timeout. And then maybe you can do a Hail Mary. And Brent Brennan said that, he was expecting BYU to play this flat top defense where they're going to have, prevent defense, and they're going to have a bunch of defensive backs back there. And they're going to make sure that they're not going to give Arizona any sort of chance to get close to the end zone. But I would have done maybe an underneath route and get somebody out of bounds, and then maybe give Michael Salgado Medina a chance to kick a field goal. He made a 57-yarder last week against Oklahoma State. Why not put him out there? You talk about you have the confidence in Money Mike to go out there and make that kick. Why not give him an opportunity to make that kick? Or why not give Noah Fafita and Trey Spivey, who's this touchdown grabber, and all these other, really athletic wide receivers, give them a chance to make a Hail Mary grab in the end zone? Like I said, I understand where Brent Brennan was coming from. There's a reason why he's coaching Arizona, and I'm sitting here recording a podcast. But, man, I just think about it. I'm like, man, was that really the red line that we hear all season long? I don't know.
19 seconds sounds like the title of a documentary, doesn't it? Right? And hopefully, this doesn't lead to Brent Brennan's downfall or anything of that nature. It's a game that they should have / could have won against a really good team. I would say, in that second tier of Big 12 teams, Texas Tech, I'm putting in their own tier by themselves as number one, and then probably BYU and Utah are in the next rung. Really good team. One bounce of the ball goes Arizona's way, and we're having a different conversation today. But let's talk about the 19 seconds, okay?
Yeah.
They had 2 timeouts. They're at the 25-yard line. Realistically, you probably need 40 yards to have a shot at a field goal, right? You want to get to the 45-yard line. That would be a 62, 63-yarder. Still, it's a long shot, but it's a shot.
Yeah.
Okay. Or maybe you get to the 50-yard line and you try a Hail Mary. You never know what will happen. I don't agree with people who say that it was too risky to do it. If they're playing a soft defense, they're going to give you that shallow cross. They're going to give you the out pattern. They're going to let you do it. They're not going to want to get beat over the top, right? I would have definitely tried something there. See what happens. And there's another whole element to this, and the reason that we're talking about it. reason we're talking about it is that people are still upset about it, and they're questioning Brent Brennan's just sort of his overall approach to coaching. Why would you sit on the ball in a situation like that? Now, look, you shouldn't make decisions based on this, but somewhere in the back of your mind, there has to be a thought of what are the optics of this, right? Like you said, I mean, he's been preaching the red line mantra, which means 100% effort 100% of the time since what? February? Like since March? Like you're on mute, Justin. You're on mute, Justin. Yeah.
Well, I say they've been preaching it last year,
but not nearly as much as this year.
But this year, it's like they're calling. This is their mantra, their rally cry. They're just pounding it in the ground. So much so that even like their players and assistant coaches, everyone is trained when they're talking to media. It's all about red line. Just go to red line.
So I think, and maybe this question will come up in this way in the press conference later today. Did Brent Brennan approach that situation with a red line mindset? Right. Look, you shouldn't be reckless as a coach and do all sorts of crazy things. Like we thought he should have gone for it on 4th down from inside their own 15-yard line against Iowa State. In retrospect, it was probably a better decision to punt that particular time. If you look at their 4th down decisions this year overall, they have been more aggressive. They've gone for it 15 times on 4th down in 6 games, and they went 18 times all of last year. I think that 4th down decision at the in the second quarter at the end of the long drive, like I don't really have nearly as big of a problem with the decision to go for it there as I do not trying to score or not trying a play at the end of regulation.
Yeah.
Like I like Dan Campbell would have gone for it probably, right? On 4th and 4 from the 5-yard line. And everyone loves Dan Campbell's ultra aggressive approach to these 4th down situations. I don't have an issue with it. My issue is, and I think I wrote this in 5 takeaways, like if you're going to be that guy all the time.
Yeah.
Not just some of the time. And Brent is he's big on feel, right? Like his sense of like how the game is going. But I think in that situation, there was enough time and they had enough timeouts to at least try something. And if it doesn't work, fine. But you're not going to have the entire fan base up in arms about it if you at least try to play.
Yeah.
Before deciding to take the game into overtime.
Well, and my big question about this is like, what is the process in making this decision? Is it, hey, I'm the head coach, I've got the executive call, that's it, we're taking a knee and we're going to overtime? Do you talk to Noah Fafita about this? Do you talk to Seth Dagey about this? Like, I don't know, just knowing those guys and who they are, I feel like they would have been like, no, let's try to get something. Let's try to, maybe set up Michael or maybe set up a Hail Mary and let's create a jump ball situation for one of our receivers to make a play at the end of the game. Because you know what? Okay, if BYU intercepts it, they're probably not going to take it back for a pick 6, right? That's it. It goes into overtime. So at least give yourself a chance.
You could also tell your quarterback, hey, if there's any doubt at all, throw the ball out of bounds.
Yeah.
Throw it in the dirt. Even if we get an intentional grounding penalty, it's not going to hurt us. We can run out the clock. I think BYU had maybe 1 timeout.
Yeah.
Maybe none at that point. So there are instructions you could give in that situation and look, it could have backfired on them, right? And then everyone would have been up in arms with that. What are they doing? Why are they trying? How could they give the ball away? It's pretty unlikely that would have happened, right? And like you said, you run like a shallow cross. If the defense is playing back, that's a free 10 yards. You don't even have to go out of bounds. Catch the ball, go down. You got your 2 timeouts. I didn't like the decision or the message that it sent. And I'll be very interested to see if there's any further discussion with Coach Brennan about this, because I'm sure some of us are going to bring it up.
Sure.
When we talk to him today. It's our only chance to talk to him this week. They're not doing a second press conference when they have a road game. Understandable. They're probably leaving pretty early for this one with the early kickoff at Houston on Saturday. But yeah, 19 seconds. still a big topic of discussion, like 48 hours after that game ended.
Yeah. And, when we were talking about it in our post-game video, I just thought about the Kansas City Chiefs. They had 13 seconds against the Buffalo Bills in a crazy playoff game, and they were able to figure out a way to get the ball down the field and get themselves in position to win that game. So, yeah, that's a tough one for Arizona, man. I know Brent Brennan's going to be thinking about that for a while. I know that Seth Dagey, Arizona's offensive coordinator, is going to be thinking about that for a while because, Arizona, it seemed like as the field got shorter, the more problems they had. I mean, we both have written about this, but like the red zone, the stuff in overtime that does not count towards the red zone stat.
I think it actually does. I was looking at the stat broadcast, which for people who don't know is like the live stats, and it didn't show up there. But if you look at the actual box score, it does show up.
Oh, really?
So I think it does count. It shows them as being 3 for 5.
Okay.
In the red zone, which means 3 scores out of 5 attempts.
But one of those is
one touchdown, 2 field goals, and 2, turnover and downs.
That's a problem.
So
that's a problem.
That is a big problem.
And I didn't realize this until yesterday, Lev. Yesterday being Sunday, BYU didn't have a single passing yard in overtime.
Oh, really?
They did not have a single passing yard. Not one passing yard, and yet they scored 9 points. All running plays.
And it was all basically like the same 2 or 3 plays.
Yeah.
Right. It was the inside handoff to LJ Martin or Bear Bachmeier keeping the ball himself. I will say, if you watch replays of both of Bear Bachmeier's touchdowns, it was some pretty blatant holding going on.
Yeah.
But as one of our colleagues, Brian Peterson, pointed out, their run game is so like compact. It's all sort of like in the interior that it's harder to see. Like when you break a run to the outside and someone holds like Chubba Ma'ai did on Kedrick Ricinos, it's easy to see that because it's out in space.
Yeah.
When it's all kind of inside the tackle box, it's harder to see those holding penalties. But that's not here.
I've also a defender is trying to break away and go outside, and the offensive line's like, no, come back, and then it's much easier to see the holding call.
Yeah. If you look at Kelly Presnell, our colleague's great photo of the last play of the game, the BYU defender kind of had his hand on Javen Watley's jersey a little bit. So, that could have been called. But, if you don't like flop in a really dramatic way in a situation like that, you're not going to get the call.
No.
You just aren't.
No.
So, look, there was also the weird thing with the chains. The chains were not set up properly at the end of the fourth quarter, right before Bachmeier's fumble that BYU recovered. The chains were supposed to be at the 14 from the 14 to the 4. They were from the 16 to the 6. I have no earthly idea whether that impacted the decision to give them a first down. Right? The ball was spotted, I think, at the 4, so it's around where it should have been. But I don't know. I don't know if that had any impact whatsoever. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
No, me neither.
Where the chains were like 2 yards off. Very odd. And look, when you watch that replay too, like Aiden Garnes was the first guy who seemed like he had a chance. And like stuff happens, like guys pile on top, all of that business. But they were that close to winning that game. There would have been no overtime if they recover that fumble. So
yeah,
that's how close they were. And then, when you're in that situation, every one of those decisions becomes magnified. And that's why we're still talking about 19 seconds.
Yep. But all things considered, Lev, 4-2 for Arizona at the halfway mark of the season. Your only 2 losses are against ranked opponents. I would say this is about what we expected, maybe a little bit better than we expected for this Arizona football team heading into this season.
I would say most people would probably have looked at the schedule and said 3-3 at this point. So, you're a little bit ahead of the game at 4-2. And we'll get into this a little later because there's a question about bowl games. But what would you say is an acceptable record for Arizona at the end of the season, given that they are 4-2 now?
6-6 and call it a day. I mean, if you just get
66.
if you just
Okay.
get the 6 wins and then you lose to ASU in the Territorial Cup game, you have to get to 6 wins before the Territorial Cup. If Arizona is going into that game with 5 wins, they are in trouble. They have to get to 6 wins before the Territorial Cup. And then, let's say you win that one. Okay, 7-5. I think that's a very acceptable record for Arizona.
I would say, okay, well, they were 4-1. So given that they were 4-1, I would say 7-5 would be the line for me. And that would mean you're holding serve at home still with games against Kansas and Baylor, and you're winning one of the 3 road games before ASU, which would be Houston, Colorado, Cincinnati. When I look at their schedule, Justin, like I feel like every game is winnable and every game is also losable.
Yeah.
Right? Like they could go either way. The spread is really small for the Houston game, which I was surprised because,
Really?
well, it's now up to 2.5. I guess it opened at 1.5. But just look at Arizona's record on the road under Brent Brennan. It's not good.
No.
Like
Only
since
one
that
road
Utah
win.
game, they have really not been competitive. So that surprised me. I guess that means that Vegas doesn't think that much of Houston, or just doesn't think Houston is that much better than Arizona, or doesn't think they're better than Arizona at all.
Banged up too.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. That is a positive, I guess, to come out of that game. Arizona didn't really suffer any new injuries of significance. Did they? I was thinking too when I was reading your midseason progress report, and you mentioned Zach Ciulepa in there.
Yeah.
Like, if there was ever a time where maybe they should have thrown Zach Ciulepa out there, it was this game against that team, right? Because they were just running the ball up the middle over and over and over again.
Yep.
And to have like just a big 380-pound body in there just clogging things up might have helped. I don't know, but they're not at a point with him where they trust him enough to put him in a situation like that.
All right, Lev, let's answer some mailbag questions on this beautiful Monday morning.
Rainy Monday.
And we got another weather delay on Saturday. This one wasn't as significant as the Weber State game. It was only
and we also started earlier.
Yes.
Thankfully. So yeah, still wasn't fun. But I did get to watch more of the baseball game as a result. So, that's a positive. All right. So some of these were sent last week, so we kind of know the answer to them, but they're still sort of interesting to bat around. The first one comes from Pap. How does BYU's pass defense measure up? Well, I think he's talking about, measuring up against Arizona's pass defense. I mean, Arizona kind of had the best pass defense arguably in the nation coming into this game. And once again, like if you take out that one play that they gave up, they were really good. Like Bear Bachmeier was 12 of 29 with 2 picks. Like it's by far the worst passing game that he had. Arizona was moving the ball decently in the passing game. There's still some inconsistencies there. Chris Hudson was really effective. Like when I look at this game, I'm not like, oh, gosh, they couldn't get open. They couldn't get separation. Like it wasn't that kind of game to me. They didn't have a lot of yak, which was a sort of a common theme between the 2 losses. The really good teams that you face with good defensive backs, they'll make the tackle, right? They will not let you run free. So that was maybe something that stood out to me a little bit about this BYU defense is they didn't allow a lot of yards after catch, which was something that we saw in the Iowa State game as well.
Yeah, and Evan Johnson, as well as advertised, he's a really good cornerback for BYU. One of the top corners in the Big 12, one of the most underrated corners, in my opinion. And I mean, the common denominator between a defense like BYU and a defense like Iowa State, which has, or I should say had, a really good defensive secondary before all those guys got banged up, they don't allow you to make plays after the catch. And as soon as they make contact, you are going down. And that was something that we saw against BYU. That was something we didn't see against Oklahoma State. Now, going up against Houston, one thing Houston has, a really good defensive secondary. So Arizona's wide receivers are going to be really tested this upcoming week against the Cougars. And yeah, I was really impressed with those defensive backs by BYU. Now, as far as, passing defense for the Arizona Wildcats, I'd say one of the best in the Big 12. They finally gave up a passing touchdown for the first time this season. If you're giving up your first passing touchdown in Game 5, I think you're doing
Game 6.
Game 6, excuse me. Yeah, Game 6. If you're giving up a passing touchdown in Game 6 at the halfway point of the season, I think you're doing a pretty damn good job. And also, it's been really nice to see Traydon Stukes continue to make the plays.
Mm-hmm.
He's got 2 interceptions this year, which is tied for the most, along with Javion Cole. Dalton Johnson came down with an interception, the first pick he's had since the 2023 Territorial Cup. So all those guys have really starting to turn into ball hawks. And look at this. Arizona has more interceptions at the halfway point of this season than they had all of last year.
All right, on to question number 2 here from Retro RV. Again, this was sent last week, but worth discussing. FanDuel has BYU as a 1.5 point favorite. Do you think these two teams are that evenly matched? I will say going into the game that I did not think so. I thought BYU was the better team and that they would win the game by 7 to 10 points. After watching the game, I'd say they're much more evenly matched than I thought. Yeah. Right? I mean, like we said, Arizona easily could have won. They were up by 10 points in the fourth quarter. They were, after being down 14-0, they scored 24 in a row. They were basically in control. The critical, I think, turning point was not being able to even get a first down when they got the ball back with 4:08 left in the game, going 3 and out, giving the ball right back to BYU. That was a chance to just squelch their momentum. I do think that on a neutral field, BYU is probably better. Like I said, I put them in that second tier of teams in the Big 12, and Arizona might be in the third tier or fourth tier. I don't have all the tiers mapped out in front of me here. But it was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. And I was very surprised when Arizona was actually in. I'm like, man, they might actually win this game. And they very easily could have.
I know the numbers suggest that BYU isn't a really good pass rushing team. But they're still BYU. That's a part of their identity, right? They have older players. They have mature players. Logan Latui, their starting defensive end, graduated high school in 2017, right? Those are just the kind of players that they have. And when you have those guys on your offensive and defensive line, that can really make a difference. And Arizona in that game did not allow a sack. Again, I know that BYU isn't like the cream of the crop when it comes to sacks and getting to the quarterback in the Big 12. But going up against that mature defensive line, not giving up a sack, I thought really showed a lot of good stuff from Arizona's offensive line. Those guys, they're starting to really turn a corner here. They can, of course, get better when it comes to run blocking. I think that needs to be a little bit improved. But, I mean, now that Kedrick Reesano is getting healthier, I mean, he broke off a couple of nice runs. Quincy Craig is a nice piece that they have in the backfield as well. And then Ismail Mahdi is their go-to guy. So I think as the offensive line continues to evolve as run blockers, I think you're going to see, and also those running backs as they get healthier, I think that run game is really going to turn a corner. But I've been really impressed with that offensive line, and then the defensive line as well. It could have been better stopping the run. It seemed like LJ Martin and Bear Bachmeier just got a consistent 6 or 7 yards every single play. But I thought, considering BYU is a top 20 team, Arizona looked pretty evenly matched with those guys.
I will say regarding the sacks, it is good that they didn't give up any sacks. They did have, according to PFF, if you look at Noah Fafita's breakdown, a 36.7% pressure rate. Which was the highest of the season, not by a crazy amount. I mean, the last 3 games, it was around 25% or so that they would get to Noah. Actually, the Hawaii game was the worst previously at 35.7%. Noah did a really good job of escaping in that game and buying time. But I'd say the offensive line looks better at this point in the season than most of us thought that it would. It was a glaring concern coming into the year, maybe the biggest one, and didn't look that great against even the likes of Weber State, right? So
I was going to
if
say,
you compare now to then,
Hawaii,
big progress. Yeah.
I was like, oh man, this is going to be a long season if those guys don't get it together. And they have gotten it together, and Tristan Bounds has been kind of that most glaring guy.
Really a pleasant surprise. I think if you were to do a midway point of the season, pleasant surprise award, that Tristan Bounds would win it. Okay. This one comes from, all right, I didn't give you this one, Justin, because it's for me. But okay. Dave Farley asks, have you gone to a game at the Northwestern temporary stadium? You excited for the new stadium? Well, I had hoped to go to a game this year at the temporary stadium, which I think it's the last year of it. They basically turned it's either field hockey or lacrosse into this small, 15,000 or so seat stadium right in the lake. So kind of unique for big time college football. But the schedule gods just didn't help me out in this regard. This upcoming Saturday would have been the last chance to do it. I needed the Arizona game to be early and the Northwestern game to be late, or the Northwestern game to be early and the Arizona game to be late. And they're just a couple hours apart.
Oh, damn.
So it's just not possible for me to fulfill my work obligations and also go to this game. So I will not be able to attend a game there. I'm somewhat excited for the new stadium, although I imagine it's going to be really expensive. It is very cool looking, though. I don't know if you've seen renderings, but it's kind of got that canopy type effect that you see in a lot of the soccer stadiums, which of course would be awesome for here. If someone happens to have a free $750 million and wants to retrofit Arizona Stadium, you know where to find the people who can funnel that money in the right direction.
And isn't it right up on the water too?
Oh yeah, right on the water. Oh yeah, the new one is not. The new one is where the old stadium was. So
okay,
that's a little bit, couple miles to the west.
Maybe I'm thinking of their training facility.
Yes, that is. Okay. Yes, they have a beautiful training facility that is right on the lake. It is gorgeous.
Big glass building.
Yes.
I'm like, man, that's a recruiting weapon.
Indeed. Okay. Cat Bus asks, in honor of Mental Health Week, what bowl game do you project Arizona to be featured in to put the loyal AZ fans' mind at ease? So I was looking up some of the bowl projections today. Over at ESPN, they've got two people doing it. One of them had Arizona playing in the Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl.
Yeah.
Against UTSA. And another one of their experts had them in the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl against SMU. Athlon Sports also had them in the Sun Bowl against SMU. And I think that the Sun Bowl would be an awesome bowl destination for Arizona. El Paso is drivable from Tucson. Not that people have been willing to necessarily drive to Arizona Stadium. Maybe they'll be more apt to drive the 4 hours over to El Paso than down to campus based on the butts and seats that we've seen so far this year. But El Paso really cares about their bowl game. It is a big deal for them. It's a cool, it's one of the few bowls that still kind of has that sense of tradition. And if you're wondering, why would Arizona be aligned with the Sun Bowl? We're in the last year of this current bowl cycle, and they're still using the designations or affiliations of the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Right. So whatever the old Pac-12 bowls were, they still apply to the teams that have left the conference. So that is a Pac-12 versus ACC bowl, and that's why Arizona is a possibility to play in El Paso.
Just thinking of Brent Brennan getting doused with Frosted Flakes after leading Arizona to a bowl game. How awesome would that be?
Tremendous. I of all the things that get dumped on you after a bowl game, that might be at the top of my list because it's not gonna stick to you.
Yeah,
the idea of yes, exactly. You can brush it off. The Duke's Mayo Bowl, just disgusting. I'd rather lose the game than have the mayo poured on me if I were the coach. Honestly,
I know. Listen. I like mayonnaise on turkey sandwiches. Not on my body after
slathered all over you.
Yeah, no way. This is a pipe dream because of Arizona where they're at this season, and in order to get to this bowl game, you got to be pretty much knocking on the door of going to the Big 12 championship game. But just the thought of Arizona in the Pop-Tarts Bowl would be awesome. I love the Pop-Tart mascot. I love the edible mascot that they have. And there's this giant Pop-Tart that the winning team, they all take a bite out of it at the end. To me, like the thought of Brent Brennan and Noah Fafita and all these other guys sharing this ginormous Pop-Tart, to me would be really a bowl game that would help out the mental health of the Arizona fans. Because it's been a while since Arizona, they won the Alamo Bowl, but it's been it feels like since the end of 2023, it's been like a decade since Arizona has won a bowl game. And I think getting to the Pop-Tarts Bowl would be awesome. But if we're just talking about realistic expectations, I think the Sun Bowl would be absolutely perfect for Arizona. And Arizona fans would love that too, because like you said, Lev, you don't got to worry about airfare. You just hop in the car and drive out to El Paso and watch Arizona take on an ACC team.
All right, I have one more question. This is more of a bigger picture one. And it comes from email from Dan Heinfeld. My question for your mailbag this week: knowing how important football is to Arizona's future realignments, will Brent Brennan be fired after a 6-6 season that should have been 8-4, but for his poor game day decisions / management? BYU is 1 and counting. Can't wait for on-the-job training in today's college landscape. Our current AD didn't hire him, so I believe he is on a short leash. Okay.
Interesting question.
It is a very interesting question. We talked a lot last year about Brent Brennan potentially being one and done. I think Arizona did the right thing by keeping him around, and the culture has been a lot stronger this year. They did well in the transfer portal. They changed the coaching staff for the better, to be sure. I think talk like this is premature when we're coming off of a game that, yes, Arizona could have won, should have won. They also almost beat a team that was ranked in the top 20, like a really, really good, really talented team that probably has a bunch of NFL players on it, right? One bounce of the ball goes their way in the last minute of regulation, and they have won that game, and they're 5-1 and probably in the AP top 25 at midseason. So to me, it's really a stretch to talk about like him being fired if they go 6-6. As you mentioned, they won the Alamo Bowl in 2023. That's their only bowl appearance since the 2017 season. That program has not even been in a bowl game.
Yeah.
So that in and of itself would be a big deal. I think 6-6 would be a mildly disappointing outcome when you start 4-1, but still not a lot of bowl games in Arizona's recent past. So that would be, to me, a step in the right direction. What do you think about the premise of this question, Justin?
Yeah, I think if Brent Brennan gets Arizona to a bowl game, then you have to keep him. You can't go to a postseason. And then you also have the possibility of Noah Fafita coming back as well for his final season. You can get this bowl win and then really set yourself up for maybe an 8 or 9 win season next year. I mean, because look at all the great things that Arizona football has done in the offseason to put themselves in a position to where they're 4-2 at the halfway point of this season. When a lot of people kind of wrote off Arizona was like, they're not going to be any good this year. So with Noah Fafita likely coming back next year with some pretty impressive recruits also coming in as well. You have Oscar Rios as well, who should be a nice, fun quarterback who was just at the Elite 11. I know there are some other pieces that they're really excited about, like Keatron Harris, that defensive lineman out of Phoenix. This thing is heading in the right direction. And I feel Arizona fans about how they're disappointed about how this game went against BYU. I totally get it, because that was Arizona's game to win. They had it. I think that was more so Arizona losing that game than BYU winning that one. I know BYU is a disciplined team and they're well coached and whatnot, but to me, that game literally slipped through the fingers of Arizona. I mean, literally slipped through the fingers. I mean, that ball is right there in Javon Watley's hands. Yeah, I don't say that, you fire Brent Brennan even if they go 6-6. But this game coming up against Houston, this is a very important one. Because, man, after losing that tough one against BYU, let's say they get just slaughtered by Houston, then, I think then we'll have to start to pay attention to things going on at the Lowell Stevens football facility, but there's still a whole another half of football to be played. And, we talked about going into this year that with so many home games in the first half of the schedule, this is an opportunity for Arizona to stack up as many wins as they can. And then you get to a harder part of the schedule. I mean, Cincinnati's going to be a tough one. ASU is certainly going to be a tough one. Houston now looks like a more challenging game than we thought.
Colorado's
Colorado
been improving quite a bit as the season goes along. Yep.
And like you said, Lev, like these games are winnable, but they're also losable for Arizona. And now we're really going to see what this coaching staff and what these players are made of. But I think it's a little premature right now.
Yeah, I think also you have to consider, like, are you going to blow things up after 2 years? You got completely new coaching staff. There's a cost, like a fiscal cost for all of that, right? Like you're talking millions of dollars. I don't have the exact figure, but I'm guessing $10 to $15 million paying out coaches who aren't working for you anymore.
This is not a Penn State situation.
Yeah. So, I mean, and then again, you're starting from, then you're hitting the reset button again, right? Like, and you have, you know how it works with the portal. Like, even if they move it back to January, it's still like a speed dating situation where, you're still hiring new coaches and hiring new staff in December. And then you got to like somehow put together a transfer portal class and maybe try to keep the old recruiting class. I mean, there's just so much that goes into it. I do not think we are at that point. I'm not a mind reader. I don't have insight into what Desiree Reed-Francois is thinking. Our emailer Dan is right in that she didn't hire him. So that does shorten the leash a little bit, but I think it's pretty silly, honestly, to be thinking in those terms when you're sitting at 4-2 at the midpoint of the season.
Yep. All right. One question for me, Lev.
Yep.
This one comes in from MPAS. On the Arizona drive before their last touchdown, they went for it on 4th instead of kicking for 3. Did that decision cost them the game? And we kind of talked about it earlier. I wouldn't say that decision cost them the game, but it certainly is one of many that you look at and it's like, man, if that just went the other way, what could have been for Arizona?
So it would have been nice, of course, to have an extra 3 points, right, in a game that ended up being tied at the end of regulation. But I will point out, if they're up by 13 instead of 10, the game plays out differently. BYU would not have settled for a field goal on their, I guess it would be their next to last drive of the fourth quarter. They would have gone for it. Who knows? They might have made it. They might have not. So it's not just like you add 3 points to the end. You have to consider that it changes the whole context of the game when the score is different. I said at the time that I would have kicked the field goal in that situation because you put in such a long drive. You want to come away with points at the very least, right? It feels a little unsatisfying when you get a field goal instead of a touchdown, but still, you get something out of it instead of nothing, and it ends up kind of being a momentum swing in BYU's direction. But I don't have a huge problem with it if you're going to be that guy who's super aggressive on 4th down, right? Like Dan Campbell, who I mentioned earlier, or like Dan Lanning at Oregon, right? Like they are very consistent in how they approach these things. That's, to me, is what I want to see out of Brent Brennan moving forward. It's just, which guy are you going to be, right?
Where does
you know what I mean, Justin?
You know what I mean? Hey, where does Bear Bachmeyer rank on athletes named after animals? He's no Tiger Woods, but
he's climbing up the charts to be sure. Who else is in that discussion?
Do you put Larry Bird in that conversation?
Larry Bird, no, that's a good one. Jack Nicklaus, the golden bear.
Yeah,
he's not on that level yet either, but he has a chance to be like an all-timer at BYU if he continues this progression. He's just still a true freshman.
Mm-hmm.
Dude is like, I don't know, he is just built like a tank. Like I when I was putting together my pregame stuff, I'm like, he has the same exact dimensions as LJ Martin. They're both 6'2" and 220.
Yeah.
So it's like one or the other, like coming at you. It's literal 1-2 punch right in the face of defensive linemen and linebackers. And Arizona had to be feeling those body blows come Sunday morning.
That was a AFC North ice bath game. Mm-hmm. Steelers, Ravens. When I watched that man walk out on the field, I'm like, If I had not known that he wore number 47, I would have assumed that was
Linebacker.
a linebacker for BYU. His calves got like defined calves. I was like, man, this guy is their quarterback.
You know who he's kind of built like? He's kind of built like a BYU quarterback from the past. Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill. Yeah.
Taysom Hill, who's still playing. He played in that 2016 game against Arizona up in Glendale. He's still in the NFL. He's kind of like this gadget player for the New Orleans Saints who plays like quarterback, running back, and tight end. But I don't know. Bachmeier might be even a little bigger.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So,
hey, speaking of still playing in the NFL, still kicking, literally.
Yeah.
How about Nick Folk kicking for the Jets, and then your boy, Lev, Lucas Haversick, making a game-winning field goal for the Green Bay Packers.
I mean, yeah, it was a put-away field goal. I mean, it was a game.
Or put-away, yes.
Yeah, it's a put-away field goal. He had 5 total kicks in the game for Green Bay and made all 5 of them. And then Matt LaFleur gave him a game ball after the game in the locker room. Like, how cool is that for Lucas, who is, he's a top 40 kicker in the world, right? But there's only 32 jobs. So you're kind of in that pool of guys who are in a holding pattern, just waiting for an injury or someone to be ineffective to get that call and have your tryout and come in and maybe do what he did. So very, very cool moment for Lucas. I don't know, if Brandon McManus is going to be back next week, but if nothing else, he had that moment and he's put out some good tape for other teams that might be on the lookout for a kicker. 3 of the kickers who played in games this past week representing the Arizona Wildcats, right? Nearly 10% of all kickers.
How about that?
So, yeah. Kicker you.
Kicker you, baby. That's what Arizona's doing right now.
You can use that. Sure. Why not?
Yeah, I just thought it was really cool for Lucas. I mean, he was playing for the Rams a little bit ago, made some game-winning field goals there for them. And like you said, Lev, it's that weird job where you're just kind of on standby. You're like just staying close to the phone, waiting for that opportunity. And you also have that mental fortitude to continue to train and prepare as if you are an NFL kicker. And then you got bills to pay. So then you got to get a job and do all these other stuff. And so Lucas Haversick said it in the post-game locker room. He was like, my brain is fried right now. Like, I am so tired. But, I also realize that this is a special opportunity. And, I can only be an NFL player once. And I have to really just stay ready and just stay ready for that opportunity and wait for my moment. And he certainly did. So
was he talking about like being a substitute teacher?
Yeah. In the Cleveland area.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're that close to becoming a civilian. Right. And like I said, 32 jobs. That's it. That's the unique thing about kicker and punter. Like, there are no backups. There's no rotations. There's no platooning.
Yeah.
That's it. Those are the rarest of the rare. So good for Lucas.
Also good for T-Mac finally getting his first career NFL touchdown. And then was it 2?
You got another one?
Okay. Yeah. He caught his touchdown. And then after the game, because it's his grandfather's birthday, he gave him the game ball. Man, how about that? If you're your grandpa and your grandson catches his first NFL touchdown and he's like, here you go, Pops, happy birthday. Sticks the ball right to you, man. I would shed a tear if I was Grandpa McMillan, man. That's awesome. Good for T-Mac. Great to see him get his first NFL tutty, and great for Grandpa McMillan to celebrate that moment with him on his birthday.
Yeah, Panthers are quietly 3-3. And I think this was a team that people thought was going to be one of the worst in the league, the way the season started for them. So nice to see T-Mac get in the end zone. He has lived up to his billing so far and has been the guy that the Panthers thought he was going to be, which is really nice to see.
Big year for the Arizona Wildcats in the NFL. That'll do it for this episode of the Wildcast podcast. That's Michael Leff, senior writer and columnist. I am Justin Spears. Check out all of our coverage of Arizona football on Tucson.com and the Wildcaster app. Later on in the week, we'll be back to preview the Arizona versus Houston game. Last time Arizona went to Houston, did not work out so well for the Arizona Wildcats. And as a matter of fact, it led to a pretty disastrous season for Arizona. So let's see if Arizona can not repeat history against Houston. We'll take a more deeper dive into that game coming up later on. And then we'll also have Jordan Ham back for Big 12 Bonanza. That'll do it. We appreciate you guys. Make sure you subscribe to the Wildcast on Apple and Spotify and check us out on Tucson.com.